Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. As another week starts, can we get some real progression at Manchester United? Of course, officially, we've signed and sold nobody. We've had Here We Go with Mason Mount, but officially, we've signed nobody, we've sold nobody, and it is July the 3rd. So will we get some movement this week? Well, we're going to get the Mason Mount official announcement from Manchester United probably later on this afternoon, if not tomorrow. Interesting story about Amrabat at Fiorentina, the Moroccan midfielder. Some of you really like him. We completely missed this over the weekend. Apparently Man United have agreed personal terms. Obviously, I don't think we have agreed personal terms. I think we'd know that from more credible sources. But what's the story behind that? And there's a very good link to Erik ten Hag and Amrabat from their Utrecht days. So let's delve into that. Rasmus Hojlund, the Mail are saying that deal is getting closer. If you saw the video last night from The Sun and Neil Custis saying that a bid is going to go in, apparently it won't be enough. Atalanta have set a price of what they want and it's not close to what that bid's going to be. We're going to start off talking about Rasmus Hojlund as well. Don't forget, later on today, just after 2 o'clock, we've got Fabrizio Romano live on the United Stand. So we'll be able to get really good info on quite a lot of things that are going on at the moment as well. We'll talk a little bit about Mason Mount as well. Laurie Whitwell in The Athletic has been talking about Erik ten Hag's admiration for Mason Mount and why he's such a good player. You know what? I was on TalkSport last night doing the Goldbridge show. Sarah, welcome to Members Club. We had a Chelsea fan who called in and gave a really good insight onto Mason Mount, which I think we'll share that in a minute. And Jake, let me just get rid of you. Sorry, there we go. It amazes me after 7 years that you still get people doing super chats thinking I'm going to read them out with words that go together that weren't even funny 7 years ago. But sorry for that little interjection from the Turbo Pratt. He should be at school. Why is his mum giving the day off? Let's get on with it. Mark says Laurie Whitwell's a copy and paste journalist. Well, I don't think that's very fair. Andy Weatherall with his gifted membership as well. So I want to talk about Amrabat because I think it's a really interesting story. But let's start off with Rasmus Hojlund. This was mainly talking about last night. Basically, Neil Custis saying that a second bid was going in for Rasmus Hojlund. I would dispute that a first bid went in, really. I mean, but apparently we were going to bid £40 million for Rasmus Hojlund. And the Mail this morning reporting that deal is getting closer for Manchester United. Now, as you know, my connection on this, whatever you want to call it, has been pretty good. As we've seen many times, as I've said many times in recent weeks, that, you know, hotter than the sun. I'm bored of saying that myself. But look, as and when it happens, we were way ahead of the game with this one. Good information. But I don't know anything about the bids that are going in. I'm going to be honest. I don't know anything about these bids that are going in. And I think that therefore it would be wrong of me to say, well, yeah, there's a bid gone in and United have had it rejected. What I do find interesting is that Atalanta would want somewhere around £60 million. And we're ready to offer 40. Now, this makes people panic. I actually think that in relation to the bids, I'm sort of ignoring it because it reminds me of the Mason Mount deal. You know, Chelsea wanted 75, we wanted to pay 40, we ended up paying 55. I'm not concerned about the bidding process because I've learned with Manchester United that that's not for us to get involved in. That's for the club to deal or no deal on. And what I mean by that is that the things that matter to me were that Mason Mount wanted to come to United, Ten Hag really wanted him, and the club were trying to buy him. That's all we can deal with as fans. Well, Rasmus Hojlund really wants to sign for Manchester United. Erik ten Hag wants him, and the club are going to try and buy him. That's as far as you can go. Now, if you want to go 80%, 90%, that's up to you. But you can never go 100% because you just don't know what United are going to do in a negotiation scenario. Sometimes we get the deal done and we overpay. Sometimes we completely screw the deal up. Atalanta got good money out of us for Ahmad. They got really good money. I mean, we're talking over 30 million quid, and that was 3 years ago. Like, I mean, ultimately, Ahmad's a flop. He's not a flop because he's had a really good season at Sunderland, and Ten Hag's going to have a look at him now. But for what we paid for him 3 years later, we've mismanaged Ahmad, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And Atalanta got good money out of us. So they'll see us come in again. They definitely will. And I don't dispute that they're going to ask for 50, 60 million pounds. Anything more than that's ridiculous for the profile of player he is at this moment. You can't ask for more than 60. But what United need to do here, and I'm damn sure Atalanta will accept it, is you just give them 40, 45, and you throw in another 25 in add-ons, so that 45 becomes 70 if he achieves those add-ons, or the 40 million becomes 65 if he achieves those add-ons. And you say to Atalanta, look, we believe he'll achieve those add-ons. You obviously do. We can't be giving you 65 million quid or 60 million up front now, but we will give you that money when he hits these goal targets. And that's what you do, and that's what I think will happen. And I think I said it on the show a few weeks ago. Apologies if I didn't, but the indication has been that Atalanta will look for about 60 million, but they're willing to do add-ons in that, because ultimately that they appreciate they're selling a striker that's, a work in progress. We've also had a super chat here from Sam. He says, it might be stupid, but Samuel Umtiti is available on a free. Worth as a fourth choice if we can get him much fitter or not, says Sam. Also, United in the transfer market, slower than a snail's fart, says Akshay. And Ben says, Mount for 60 million is terrible. Glazers probably won't sell. They genuinely think they're doing this on purpose because we would have funds to buy them, says Ben. Okay. Hojlund, let's hope we get him, says Ray. And hello, Mark. I have a bad feeling about Hojlund. I don't know why. I feel like he's a wish version of Haaland, says Mohammed. Well, I think you sort of answered yourself your own problem there. You shouldn't be comparing Hojlund to Haaland. The only thing that's similar is the name. It sort of sounds a little bit similar. And I wouldn't go anywhere near Umtiti, by the way. But look, everybody will compare Hojlund to Haaland because Haaland's come into this league and done fantastically well. I think that, as I said last night, our fans moan when we don't buy players a little bit early. They're always like, why do we buy the finished article and pay loads and loads of money? Why didn't we buy Anthony when he was in Brazil? Why didn't we buy Martinez when he was in Argentina? Why don't we get these players before they become good? And I think with Hojlund, that's what Ten Hag's looking to do. Best thing about add-ons is if they don't achieve the goals targets, we most likely be in a position to get income from reaching the Champions League to pay them, says Jordan. Exactly. I don't think there's any problem in relation to add-ons, in relation to Rasmus Hojlund. And I'm very much looking forward to speaking to Fabrizio later on, just to get a grasp on how advanced we actually are with this. There has been pictures of Mason Mount arriving at Carrington today for his medical. That medical will probably be going on for the next few hours or so. I would suspect United will announce this later on this afternoon, and I hope they do, because really you need to get that. You need to get that done ASAP. So that we can move on to other deals. Somebody in the chat said, what do you think about Atalanta wanting 80 million euros? I mean, again, it's pure scaremongering, really. It really does just come down to the fact that there will be add-ons in this. It won't just be a clear, straight deal. So there will be add-ons included in that. Mason Mount medical. What do you think about that, Mark? I've already moved on, mate. I don't know how everybody else works. Maybe people would say it's a little bit harsh, but when we get here, we go. That's it. I move on. I mean, I suppose there's an interest in what the player says. Everybody's different, Some people, they go to McDonald's, they order a McChicken sandwich. I'd rather just go to Nando's. I'll have a Big Mac. That's what I go to McDonald's for, and I don't even like McDonald's anymore. Controversial. Some people like the medical. Some people wait for the medical. Some people like the official. Here I am. I've always loved Man United, even though I love Chelsea. For me, we'll react to it. Of course, we will. I like the only thing I like about the official announcement is that's it. That deal's done. What's next? That's the only thing I like about it, because I know Mason Mount's going to sign. Welcome to Members Club, Martin. Thank you very much. So, yeah, look, I'm hoping, and look, there's no reason to be optimistic, of course, but I'm hoping that we get the medical and official announcement of Mason Mount today, and then tomorrow we're moving on to other things in relation to signing other players, because, we've got a game. We've got a game a week on Wednesday. We're playing a game a week on Wednesday. I mean, it's crazy. our first pre-season game is a week on Wednesday. I think there are players back today or tomorrow. Not the international players, obviously, but we're going to be on tour before you know it, so we've got to get moving. You're speaking to Fabrizio, asking him if he has heard about the United sale. Well, we always ask him that, Ben, and I'm sure somebody at some point was going to ask us about the sale this week, and the answer is God knows. I don't know. I don't know what's happening with the sale. As I say, it could be tomorrow, it could be Christmas. I don't know. Could you imagine at this moment in time? I don't know, and nobody I speak to knows. So, could you imagine the Glazers in bed? She would be in the cab on the way home before they are ready, says Jason T. I don't want to imagine that, Jason. Weird Monday morning comment there. Anyway, this is the one I wanted to talk about, and there is a bit of a connection to this guy. We're going to talk about Ten Hag, obviously, but we're going to talk about Amrabat. A few of you have been mentioning him for quite a while. If you want a bit of a background on him, he's 26 years of age. He sort of is a defensive midfielder, to be fair. Played very well in the Conference League final. In fact, you could argue that he played better than Declan Rice did in the final, although West Ham did win. 26, Fiorentina, Moroccan international, been linked to us quite a bit, but no one's really ever been that excited about it. Probably available for about £25 million. He's got a 1 year left on his deal with the option for another year with Fiorentina. Been linked to Barcelona. So there's a quality player there. Over the weekend, there was reports coming in, albeit not great, that Man United have agreed personal terms with Amrabat. Now, the only reason I'm bringing this in is twofold, really. With Caicedo going to Chelsea, with Declan Rice going to Arsenal, and Lavia looking like he's going to Liverpool, 3 players, of which we would like, are going to 3 clubs that are going to be big rivals for us next season. Rabiot has stayed at Juventus. So United are sort of sat in a position now where 3 players that would have made us a lot better are going to clubs that are going to be our direct rivals and could make them a lot better. United have got to do something in this position. Where are they going to go next? We've been talking about this last night as well. There was talk of Tchouaméni, which I think is completely unrealistic, as much as I would like it. There's been talk of Gravenberch, which, again, I don't know whether Bayern Munich are moving on or not. But Amrabat's interesting. And I think that the one thing I would say about this is, this Man United transfer window, you almost can't say no to anything. We came into the window not expecting a goalkeeper, even though many people wanted one, expecting a really experienced, expensive striker. We're now looking at a goalkeeper and an inexperienced, up-and-coming striker. So I don't think you can say that Amrabat's not a player that could come in. And I know a lot of you in the chat quite like the idea of signing him. The interesting thing is there is and some people will say, oh, God, not again. The interesting thing is, just like Mason Mount, just like Anthony, just like Martinez, just like Eriksen, just like a lot of players that Ten Hag has been interested in and brought in the last 12 months, there is a Ten Hag Amrabat history. As a late teenager breaking through, Amrabat was at Utrecht, which is where Ten Hag was at that time. And they had a season together, and Amrabat has spoken about that and said, his attention to detail, his instruction was quite frustrating at the time, but I look at it now and it made me a better player. So there is a Ten Hag connection there as well. So it's that sort of makes it, as we know, probably even more likely. Now, I don't think we're at the point where it's going to happen, and again, it'll be a good question to ask Fabrizio later. But he's relatively cheap. He's a player that Ten Hag has worked with before. We're running out of options in and around that sort of defensive midfield area. Is he better than McTominay? Yes. And that always has to be a starting point. It might be what United do because it's about what Man United can do. Personally, can he do the job that Casemiro does? Can he play next to Casemiro? Well, I think he can. Can he be the successor to Casemiro? That's where I fall down at it. As a player that can improve our midfield, yes. But I did sort of hope we were going to go for a midfielder that can improve our midfield and be the successor in our midfield as well. Ironically, all the players are linked to Man United, yet we only get the leftovers. Glazers has made this club a joke. We only get to hear rumours, says Mohammed. And it's all good. Weghorst is for sale. It's the same problem for the last 10 years, says Ben. We are linked with players and get the leftovers. Oh, God, everyone's talking about leftovers. And Zachary says, Man United finally playing a friendly in my country, in my local stadium, just for me to go on holiday the day before, says Zachary. Unlucky, Zachary. Unlucky. So, yeah, look, keep your eye on Amrabat. It's a player some of you have been mentioning for a while, and the reason I bring it in is that there actually was news stories over the weekend saying that we'd agreed personal terms, which is complete and utter bollocks. Like, we've not completed personal terms with Amrabat, but it might be a player that United move for later on in the window because he's reasonably priced. But keep an eye on Barcelona. As I said, they're interested in him as well. But it is that ex-Players FC link-up that Ten Hag has. Nobody's really talking about it as well, so it's just worth putting in the United Stand community. Let's see what happens with it. FIFA Crazy says, ultimately a backup DM is what we need. Casemiro is a starter, hence why Casemiro is unrealistic as he would start for Chelsea. Amrabat is a good choice, says FIFA Crazy. Make no mistake about it, I'm Moroccan and I know Amrabat very well. He was hands down the best DM in the World Cup. It's a steal even for 40 million, says Hamza. Well, I've started something now. I have started something now, haven't I? Because this is exactly what I've been hearing in the chat for a long time, that Amrabat, a lot of people in the chat really like him. So, look, Ten Hag has that previous relationship. It's reasonable money. Let's wait and see. Manan says, hi, Mark, have a great day. But what I would say about that is that we can mention it now and we can say, let's see what happens in that area. But I think we all know that, and they were talking about this in The Athletic, as we move towards the goalkeeper story, The Athletic are saying, look, there's not a load of money around and the striker is the priority with the goalkeeper deal sort of ticking over. So it's going to be interesting what we do once this Mason Mount deal's out the way as to where we go next. Do we go for a Nana, which obviously there's been a lot of talk about, or are we going for the striker and Rasmus Hojlund next? And I think that's going to be interesting to see what happens. Amrabat wouldn't be my first choice, but he's good with decent experience. Given the shambolic position we're in, might get us by this season, says James. And Amrabat did play better than Rice during the conference final. He's a solid player. Well, I think Omar and James have absolutely nailed it there. I mean, look, if you look at this transfer window, and we were having this chat with Qatari ownership on May the 1st, of course, we shouldn't be talking about Amrabat. You're absolutely right. And I like the fact that there's people in the chat who are absolutely realistically analysing this transfer window and, talking about it in a proper way. Welcome to Members Club, Sean. Sean Dyche loves the United Stand is the full name. Because we would want Casido. We would want Lavia. We would want Bellingham. We would want maybe McAllister. We would want Declan Rice. All 5 of those players are gone. So we're not saying Amrabat's the dream midfielder. The dream midfielder's gone. So you've got to look at what's available now. And hello. That's not me saying hello to welcome to the United Stand. I did that 20 minutes ago. Hello. This deal isn't the dream midfield deal. Of course it's not. It's what you can do in July when you've wasted June with the Glazers. And all the good midfielders are basically gone because a lot of people wanted midfielders. So maybe you do bring Amrabat in, who for a season would be a very good option to have, who can play next to Casemiro in a more defensive team at the Etihad, but can also cover for Casemiro if he's suspended. And then next summer, hopefully you do have a new owner that can go, there's this midfielder out there that we want to go and get. Maybe that's just the way we're going to have to be now. Because what's in my mind as we talk about the goalkeeper is, and I don't blame Ten Hag for this, but I think there has to be an acknowledgement that all the delay and all the chaos and all the confusion is because this transfer window has descended into farce. Mark, do you think it's about time Sir Jim gave in, as Qatar will always outbid, says Martin? Well, that's not for me to say, is it? And Calaboo says, our players are listed as assets against the debt. If we sell them, the debt rises and the club value lower. Glazers want as much pounds as possible. Sell to buy ain't really happening until they're gone. And it makes you wonder how good our scouting and director of football is when the majority of our players were ex-Eric Ten Hag players. Do you think he's lost faith in them, says Royston? I think there's a lot of work to do at United, and Ten Hag probably knows it'll be easier to do when we've got new owners or the ownership has been sorted out. I think that's a great point, yeah. But just going back to, the midfield situation, the goalkeeper situation, even the striker situation, it's very obvious, and you have to attach Ten Hag to this, but I blame the club. I blame the Glazers. The transfer window is chaotic. Of course it is. The fact that we're talking about Amrabat now in July, when it should have been Casido or Rice or Lavia in June, is because it's chaotic and he was trying to get Rabiot. The fact that we're going for Hojlund and Onana, it wasn't. It was meant to be Kane and De Gea stays. Like that 100 million that we'll spend on Onana and Hojlund was meant to be going on Harry Kane. And now we're not getting Kane and we can't afford Osman. So we're splitting that 100 million on a goalkeeper and a striker. Now, that wasn't the plan in May. And it wasn't the plan until halfway through June. So it's chaotic. It's just, we're already in the position now where we know we've got a game a week on Wednesday. We know in a couple of weeks we'll be flying out to the US. And we know in just over a month we're playing Wolves. So it's chaotic. Accept it, deal with it. That's what it is. This transfer window has descended into chaos, and it's about what we can salvage. Now, last year was chaos. We were in a similar position last year. We were heading off on tour. We only took Malacia. Martinez and Eriksen were signed whilst on tour, and Anthony and Casemiro were signed after we'd played a couple of Premier League games. And we still salvaged a decent summer. We overpaid. It was chaotic. Most players didn't get a pre-season, but we still salvaged a decentish transfer window, and we still can salvage a decentish transfer window. But you can't not acknowledge it's chaotic. You can't not acknowledge it wasn't what Ten Hag wanted, and you can't not acknowledge that actually maybe last year, maybe the whole season we got away with it. Maybe last summer transfer window we did get away with it. I mean, we did get away with it. Maybe the World Cup helped. I don't know. We got away with it last year. It was a chaotic transfer window. We ended up with some good players, and we had a really good season. Can lightning strike twice? Can we have another chaotic summer transfer window where we get away with it and still have a good season? I don't know. That's a rhetorical question. I don't know. But what worries me about this transfer window, and it didn't happen last transfer window, is that our rivals are going for players that we should be going for. Like, we definitely should have been in the race for Caicedo. We should have been in the race for Lavia. We should have been in the race for Declan Rice. And those three players are all going to direct rivals. So that chaos could hurt us this year. Look, at the end of the day, you could go and, if you could be the best pool player, the best bowler, whatever it is, the best darts player, the best penalty taker, and I could walk up and say, right, you're brilliant at darts. 1 dart, whoever gets the highest wins. You throw for triple 20, you hit a 20. I throw it, I hit triple 20. I've won. Got away with it. I've got away with it, and I've won. Let's have a penalty shootout. You're really good at them. You hit the bar, I scuff it and goes in the bottom corner. I've won. Let's have a bowl. You get your bowl wrong, it goes down the alley. I bowl and I knock 4 down. I've won. I probably won't win if we have a second throw or a second roll or a second penalty. And that's what worries me about United. I think we did well last year, but was it unique in the fact that there was, could we do it again on another chaotic transfer window? I don't think we can. I don't think we can. I think we need to salvage quickly. And as I've always said, this is a Glazer summer. And I think most people have accepted that now. I think even a week ago, some people thought it could still be a Qatari summer. It could still be a Sajim summer, whatever that is. But I think most people realise now. I think the passing into early July has made people realise that this summer transfer window, and I'll admit, I still feel like I'm in February. I still feel like at times I'm in February and this sale will happen before the summer. But the reality is we're into July now. And I'm sure some of you can relate with that. It felt like back in February, it was like, we'll definitely have new owners by the summer. We're into July now. Like, we're not getting new owners for this transfer window. It's just not happening. And even if tomorrow they announced Qatar, they've still got to get authority from the Premier League. It's 3.5 weeks until August. That's just not going to happen. So we are where we are. Unfortunately, it is another Glazer transfer window. And therefore, we're sort of in that position where we're going, we've just got to try and salvage something. I'd get João Neves as a Casemiro successor, says United Elijah. Mark, from players you've spoken to, are they stressed with the takeover? Legally, owners have a duty of care. Acid, no, they're not. And I know it's not the Inter channel, but why is Skriniar not playing at the minute and without a contract? Have I missed something? World class for me, says Elliot. I don't know what's happened to Skriniar. He sort of fell off a little bit anyway. Hopefully, he's not coming to United anyway. Hopefully, Anthony has been training with his right foot during the time off, ready to start using it effectively for the tour, says Andy Weatherall. And I feel like January will be important. Hopefully, it's Qatar January to help us push through in the season, says John. And our plan went from guaranteed goals with Kane to questionable goals with Hojlund and potentially more goals conceded with Onana. And I'm worried, Mark, says James. Well, everyone's entitled to their opinion. Maybe the January transfer window will be big for Manchester United. Maybe it will, but I don't, at the moment, well, the one thing I would say is, Skriniar went to PSG, by the way. The one thing I would say is that even if we did get Qatari ownership, and even if they wanted to spend big in January, where would you be in January? Like, we're not going to be a title race, are we? We might, we might be sixth. We might be 15 points off fourth. So the season, you can't rescue a season in January unless you're in a position for the season to be rescued. And my worry would be, where would we be in January? There's no World Cup this year, so November we're going to be playing games. It's going to be a very competitive season this year. I think we all know that. Are you in contact with Hojlund, says Tony? Well, that would be unprofessional. And we had to say anything. A lot of people like the signing of Amrabat if it happens. So on the goalkeeper, that's what I got sidetracked there. On the goalkeeper, again, it'll be interesting to get Fabrizio's thoughts this afternoon, because I think with the goalkeeper, we've been pretty good on this. I said on the Friday morning show that I'd been told from good sources close to United that that they want to... good source from United said to me on Friday that the talks with Onana, whilst true, the advancement of a deal are being overplayed by the Italian press. Italian press on Friday was talking about, here we go on Friday, bid on Friday. It's now Monday. That's not happened. So I think and I said this to you at the start of the window, there's almost 5 reasons why a transfer story can start. The player wants a move, the club wants to sell them, the player wants a contract, that's 3. Just general bullshit, 4. And obviously Man United get linked to everybody, 5. I think with this Onana story, I think Inter want to sell. And I think the press have been briefed that Inter want to sell. And I think United are interested, but I think Inter want to sell quick. So I think that the deal is being sort of progressed quickly in the knowledge that United fans will be like, why is the bid not gone in? Why is the bid not gone in? So it's almost Inter putting pressure on Man United. I think that's what's going on here. The talks are happening, and I fully hope that Onana does sign, but I think it has been advanced a little bit further than it actually is. And also, as United fans, we know United are not quick at doing deals as well. So when will the Onana deal happen? You'd like to think this week, because ultimately we're training. The thing I absolutely hate, and we saw it with Varane and we've seen it with many players, you get linked to a player in June and you're like, I don't want them to go back to pre-season with their current club because they might get comfortable and not move. And it doesn't always work like that, but you don't want these players going back to pre-season. And remember, Onana's not an international. He retired, didn't he? So he'll be going back to training for Inter very, very soon. So you want to get moving with these deals before they go back in training. But United are quite slow. I think the interesting thing for me is going to be whether United do go for the striker first or go for the goalkeeper first. And that is where we're sort of getting conflicting reports. I mean, look, the basic situation at the moment is that Italian reports would have you believe that Onana to Man United is going to happen any minute. And UK reports have been very, very, very quiet. I mean, if you think about Manchester Evening News, Telegraph, Athletic, Ornstein, whoever's UK based, no one's really come out saying Onana's imminent, Onana talks. They've all been very quiet on that. And that'll be because they're being briefed by the club, in the sense that they'll be asking the club, and the club will be saying what we were told on Friday, the deal is not as advanced as they're saying in Italy. So I think Italy are pushing this, Inter are pushing this. United would like it to happen, but they want it to happen at their own pace. And remember, they've still got to talk to David De Gea, who only got married at the weekend. So I don't think, I might be wrong, but I do not suspect that Onana to Man United is going to happen anytime really soon, because I think United are taking their time, and I think they're going to speak to De Gea and everything first. Ultimately, I think it will happen, but I don't think it's advanced as some people think it is. Yao says 70 million for Hojlund would be dumb business. I'm not sure this will happen, though, at that right price. Fabrizio has denied the Hojlund rumours, says Ali. Well, look, again, we've got Fabrizio on at 2 o'clock. A lot can change in a few hours, but I know that he said that United have not put a bid in for Rasmus Hojlund, and that Atalanta are looking at considerable amounts of money. You know, we've had it mentioned again that, 70, 80 million euros. In fact, this is what he said. United have never made an offer for Rasmus Hojlund, as the club are well aware that the player is unattainable at 35 million euros. Atalanta want 60 to 70 million euros, and that might not even be enough right now. Well, that sort of fits in. And Fabrizio's not where I'm getting the information on Hojlund, and that's not where I got that information a few weeks ago. But what did I say to you last night, and what did I say to you this morning? On the bid, I've not had anything about the bid. Like, it was interesting last night. It's interesting that, the interest in United is what is interesting to... Sorry, the interest in Hojlund is what justifies what I've been hearing. The fact that we're actually moving on this deal. But I hadn't heard anything about a bid. And the bids, to me, didn't make sense. 30 and 40 million don't make sense. They are too low. I said it last night. 40 million's too low. Atalanta will not accept 40 million pounds. I agree with Fabrizio, 60 to 70 million euros is about right, but that only quantifies what I said at the start of this video. What is 60 to 70 million euros? 60 million euros is about 54 million pounds. 70 million euros is about 65 million pounds. What did I say at the start of the video? It will include add-ons, so it will still be 40 plus 20. It'll still be 45 plus 20. That's what United need to do. Add-ons will be the key to the Rasmus Hojlund deal. Atalanta, I believe, are very open to add-ons because it's money in the bank. If he is the player that they think he is, then it's money in the bank. And United will be open to add-ons because if he is the player they think he is, they'll be happy to pay those add-ons. I'm thinking 45 plus 20. I think everybody wins. You don't pay the 20 now, you pay the 45. It's 5 million more than the 40 you want to pay. It's exactly what you've done with Mason Mount. You can't pay 65 million up front. You can't pay 70 million up front. This deal will be done on add-ons. And people will start saying, walk away, you can't pay 70 million euros, but add-ons is the thing you've got to factor in here. Omar says, Onana, Amrabat, Hojlund might not be who we wanted at first, but these are solid players that will improve the squad nonetheless, and at least they are not faded panic buys like Cavani, says Omar. Do you think we can do well in January window if the takeover happens with Qatar, says Omar? Omar, I'm not calling you out. You've got every right to have your opinion, excitement, etc. But I am not interested in the January transfer window. I said this, I almost say it every summer. Why do I care about the January transfer window? The January transfer window makes me think of the season after this. The January transfer window is not to be excited about. It is not to be encouraged about, because the January transfer window, over half the season has gone. You don't rescue your season halfway into the season when you're up against Arsenal, who took 43 from their first 48 points. Man City, who are a juggernaut. Even if we do have a good January transfer window, what will it be for? The season after, and maybe to get top four. I get it. If we get new ownership, the earliest they can make an impact will be the January transfer window. I understand that. But we've not even kicked a ball this season, and it feels like some of our fans are writing it off. I still think there's a transfer window here to salvage. And I'm still very much focused on that. I'm not throwing in the towel. I'm not putting up a white flag on next season, because that would be horrific. Because if we are going to have a bad season next season, it's so unfair on Ten Hag, because we can all sit here now and go, if we have a bad season, it's on the owners. But we all know, we've lived it with Mourinho, we've lived it with Solskjaer. As soon as you start losing some games, you forget the summer transfer window and people start going in on your manager, and that's what worries me. We can all say, let's write this season off and let's get new owners in January. When you're getting smacked up by Arsenal and Man City in the autumn, people aren't going to go, oh, wow. They'll be going, why has he done this? Why has he done that? Got to sort it out now. The only real miss has been McAllister. Rice was overvalued, and you can't pay 80 million for Casido if Casemiro is first choice. And Eric Ten Hag wanted Mount, says Steve. Thank you, Steve. Liverpool getting Szoboszlai and McAllister while we're messing around, says Mahid. It's not looking good, bruv. Interesting, Liverpool not just getting McAllister and Szoboszlai, they're also hot favourites to get Lavia. I mean, look, I don't want to blow smoke up Liverpool's arse, but their midfield was terrible last year. If you'd said to any football club, do you want a new midfield of Lavia, Szoboszlai and McAllister, it's not a bad. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to work. I mean, the fact is that transfers, it's very unlikely that 100% of your transfers are going to work, but it's not a bad renovation job, is it? And they're also still linked in with that Thuram of Nice. So, yeah, it's looking good. I do want to talk about Mason Mount. A few people mentioning Mount. I've got to say, as I say, I'm not massively excited about somebody telling me it's going to rain at 3:00, because I can probably see the clouds and I've seen the weather forecast. I'm not massively excited about Mason Mount being officially announced as a Man United player. It doesn't rock my boat. I'll be excited to see him play his first competitive game, and I was excited when we got the here we go, but the official announcement and a few, PR comments and a holding up of a shirt, it's not that exciting to me. I want to move on to other business. But, I think what you've got to acknowledge with Mason Mount is that he is a player that Eric Ten Hag really, really wanted. And it shocked me when we were linked to him. But I back the manager, and I do think there's a good player in Mason Mount. So let's see what it brings. Ten Hag's definitely putting his head out there and saying, I'm the manager. This is the player I want. You speak to a lot of United fans. I think it's a mixture of don't understand why, curiosity, and this looks like a good signing. I think that's the fair mix. But it was interesting because I was speaking to a Chelsea fan on Talk Sport last night, and he phoned in about Mason Mount, and he said, look, at the end of the day, Chelsea dropped the ball there. Mason Mount's gone to Man United because you're offering him a better financial package, and that's why it's happened. And I said, well, look, putting aside why he left, I know he'd been a youth player at Chelsea for a long time, and some Chelsea fans might feel why is he left to go to Man United. Putting that aside, what type of a player are we getting? And the Chelsea fan said this, look, Mason Mount is not going to take you from third place to winning the title. That's not who he is. He's not the game-changing signing that takes you from third to the title. That's not what Mason Mount is. But that doesn't mean that Mason Mount's not a good player. What Mason Mount is a player that you can tell him what to do, and if you're a good coach, he can make a big difference to your team. So, effectively, Mason Mount is a tactically disciplined player that Eric Ten Hag can basically instruct what to do, and he will do it. And that's what that Chelsea fan was saying. He was saying, look, he's not Kevin De Bruyne. He's not one of the best players in the world that's just going to take you from one level to another level. But what he is a really good footballer that is disciplined, and actually in a team is a really good signing if your team is all working in tune, because Mason Mount is he's a disciplined player that you can control, and you can send him out to do. You can tell him to go and do a job, and he will do it. And if that job that you want doing is important to your team, and he does that job, then he becomes a very important part of your team. So I think that was a good explanation from a Chelsea fan as to what we're getting with Mason Mount. Game changer. Well, he will be a game changer in relation to what he does, but he's not going to take us to the title. He's going to, at the end of the day, looking at last season, he's going to be Eriksen with more legs, more stamina, and more press. And that's what he's going to be. I think Eric Ten Hag is a massive fan of Christian Eriksen, but I think he realised very quickly, as much as he likes Eriksen, Eriksen's got no physicality. He's got not a lot of stamina. He very rarely plays 90 minutes at the same way he was playing the first 20 minutes. And he's not particularly quick. So I think Mason Mount is a Christian Eriksen upgrade. And that just shows you how important Christian Eriksen is to the team. And people will say, well, that's a contradiction. But Erik ten Hag is a big lover of Christian Eriksen and what he brings to that team. And we missed it when he had that injury. But the fact that Ten Hag feels he needs to upgrade it shows you how important Eriksen is, but how his deficiencies are an issue. Eriksen's not physical, he's not quick, and therefore he's not as efficient in the press because he's not quick and he hasn't got the stamina. And Mason Mount will bring us that, won't he? His passing's nowhere near Eriksen, says Munier. Well, I mean, look, Christian Eriksen arguably is a better passer, but Mason Mount's a better presser. He's a better tackler. He's quicker. He's got more stamina. He's probably a better carrier of the ball than Eriksen as well. Look, whether you like it or not, don't argue it with me. Argue it with this guy on my jumper. You know, he has prioritised Mason Mount, and Mason Mount is going to be an upgrade on Christian Eriksen because that's where Mason Mount's going to drop into that team. I think that is... As I say, I was shocked that was our number one signing, and we'll never understand why it was our number one signing. I mean, I get the signing. I do. I understand the signing, and I've got no problem with it. The fact that this is... the fact that it was our first... And then he said worst. It better not be. The fact that it was our first signing was a bit of a shock to me. But look, Ten Hag is the manager. He certainly deserves the backing and trust of the fans, and he's got that. And let's just see what happens with Mason Mount. But there's a lot of ticks to Mason Mount as well. I mean, we've just spoken about his qualities as a player. A lot of people would say, well, you'd probably get that from Brazil, you'd probably get that from Italy, France, Spain for £15 million cheaper. But what a lot of people don't realise is we've got a huge issue around homegrown players. Like every player we want to sell is homegrown. So we've got a massive problem with our homegrown talent. Like, whether you like it or not, you can't ignore it. United have got to look at British players or players in the youth because our homegrown roster is terrible. I mean, look, Marcus Rashford shouldn't be sold anyway, but definitely not because he's English. We need to keep as many homegrown players as we can. So Mason Mount coming in is obviously a homegrown player. Brandon Williams has got to go. Dean Henderson's got to go. Harry Maguire's got to go. Scott McTominay has got to go. That's 4 homegrown players. Plus, you know, some would say Sancho's got to go. We do need, whether you like it or not, we can't just keep buying non-homegrown players. Like, we have to have a balance. So Mason Mount is probably worth 10-15 million just for that. But that's bad. That's not Ten Hag's fault, of course. And again, that comes back to the Glazers, the director of football, the CEO, previous managers. You know, the recruitment of horrifically bad players and transfers and wages has loaded us with homegrown players that just aren't good enough. Not going to pretend I know enough about Amrabat, but 0 goals, 1 assist and 13 yellow cards in 42 games doesn't fill me with confidence, even for a DM, says Duncania. Well, no, to be honest, it doesn't bother me, Duncan. That doesn't bother me. You know, I don't need my defensive midfielder to score goals or get assists. I know Casemiro added that to his game, but I'm not bothered about that. The yellow cards don't bother me. You know, I actually just want a player that can be good defensively. Mason Mount will strengthen and stabilise our team, and one key word, he's fairly consistent and reliable, says Martin. Look, it's going to be really interesting with Mason Mount. He's not necessarily coming into this club with a fanfare of positivity and, you know, excitement. I think he's coming in with a curiosity. Obviously, all United fans will back any new signing. I've never seen that not happen. But, you know, is it, in some ways, it's not, well, there's not even the glamour of Sancho. You know, Sancho is a very exciting signing. So, look, Mason Mount's got a lot to prove, but you've always got a lot to prove when you go from one big rival to another big rival. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting with Mason Mount, definitely. Anyway, what will be interesting as well is when they announce that when they announce the deal's done, we're expecting that later today. For some reason, United like to announce stuff at 6 o'clock. So that's a complete guess, by the way. I've got no inside information on that, but we'll wait and see. What we do have is Fabrizio Romano this afternoon on the show. Loads of questions for him about lots of different things, and interestingly, a lot of it around Italy. I can think of 4 players, actually. There we go. Agate next summer, is that worth buying, says Dylan. Did he not go to PSG? So I doubt he'll be available next summer. Yeah, don't miss the show at 2 with Fabrizio. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. Thanks for joining me this morning, and I'll speak to you all in a bit. Take care.